Dad, you need to sit down. Lily's voice shook over the screen. Her little brother, Max, bounced behind her, eyes wide, barely able to contain his excitement. What is it? Did you make the championship team? I asked, trying to keep my tone light. No. Bigger, Lily said, her fingers trembling on the keyboard. Mom said we should tell you first. Before I could ask what she meant, a hand appeared on the screen. It was Marissa, my ex-wife, and my stomach dropped. That hand wasn't empty. A massive diamond glittered on her ring finger, catching the sunlight streaming through a chandelier. Clearly not the same apartment I had been paying for all these years. We need to discuss the custody arrangement, she said, voice calm but cold. I froze. My heart pounded. Just 24 hours ago, I thought my life had hit rock bottom when she told me she was marrying a billionaire, that my children would finally have a real father. But nothing compared to what I would discover next. It turned out my own family had stolen from me. Not a few thousand, not a small inheritance, but $100 million. For 20 years, my parents, Harold and Elaine Whitmore, and my uncle, Simon, had concealed my grandfather's fortune, forging documents, lying to attorneys, even going so far as to declare me legally dead. I, Jack Whitmore, 42, had spent my life as a construction supervisor in Brooklyn, sweating under the sun, laying foundations for buildings I could never afford. My sneakers coated in concrete dust, driving a battered pickup with a cracked windshield, surviving on cheap diner coffee because Starbucks was for people with lives that weren't mine. I built the city quietly, invisibly, while my family lived in luxury using the money that was rightfully mine. Harold and Elaine siphoned $3 million over 2 decades for vacations, golf clubs, and luxury cars while I counted pennies to cover rent and child support. And Marissa's fiancé, Nathan Blackwell, knew the truth. His father had tried for decades to take over Whitmore Industries, my grandfather's empire. Failing that, Nathan decided to marry into it, wooing my children to secure the only other heirs of my inheritance. I spent Friday nights in my small Brooklyn apartment, holding on to what mattered most. My laptop propped on a stack of manuals, instant coffee in hand, waiting for Lily and Max. 2 bedrooms, peeling paint, a radiator that groaned like it had a soul, but for 30 minutes each week, it became my world. The video call had come early that night. 5 minutes early. My first warning. Lily's blonde hair pulled into a ponytail, just like I used to do before school. Max practically bouncing with energy, and then Marissa's hand. That diamond, that smirk, it wasn't just wealth. It was a threat. Everything changed in that moment. What I thought was my lowest point, the divorce, the heartbreak, the financial struggle, was nothing compared to the betrayal I would uncover. 20 years of stolen opportunity, of hidden truths, of family treachery. And I would take it all back. Because sometimes justice doesn't arrive in a suit. Sometimes it comes in work boots, carrying the briefcase you were born to own. Her voice had that polished, practiced edge, the kind you only get when you've rehearsed every line in front of a mirror. Jack, Nathan and I are getting married next month. Lily and Max will be moving into his penthouse on the Upper East Side. My coffee froze halfway to my lips. Wait, who? Nathan Blackwell. Marissa continued casually, as if I should have already known. We've been together for 8 months. 8 months. I'd spent 8 months hearing nothing about this man who was suddenly going to be living with my children. He's been wonderful with the kids, she added, glancing at them. Haven't you, darlings? A deep, confident voice echoed from just off-screen. Let's show him around, sweetheart. The camera swung, revealing a living room that seemed plucked straight from an interior design magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Central Park, flooding the space with sunlight. Sleek white leather couches, glass tables, polished chrome accents. The kind of furniture that screamed wealth and screamed, "Don't touch." "Dad, look at this place," Lily exclaimed, grabbing the phone and twirling it to give me a full tour. "It has an elevator inside the apartment." "Like, really inside," she said with awe. Max bounced next to her. "And my room's bigger than our whole old apartment. And a pool on the roof. And a home theater. Nathan has a driver who takes us wherever we want." I forced a tight smile. "That's incredible, kids. Really incredible." Marissa took the phone back, now standing beside Nathan. My mind raced while I looked at him. 51, salt and pepper hair, a tennis tan, a square jaw that belonged on a magazine cover. His suit probably cost more than my entire truck. "Jack," he said smoothly, extending a hand toward the camera like we could somehow shake through the screen. "I want you to know I'm not here to replace you. The kids are lucky to have a father as dedicated as you." Dedicated. That was rich. Dedicated. The word rich people used to describe someone who'd been broke, but still showed up, week after week, paycheck to paycheck, while building a life for his children out of scraps. "They'll have real opportunities now, Jack," Marissa said, hand resting on Nathan's chest, as if displaying a trophy. "The kind a father can provide." Nathan continued, oblivious to the silent punch in my gut. "Private schools in Switzerland, European vacations, trust funds to set them up for life." Each word a dagger aimed precisely where she knew it would hurt. "I am their father, Marissa," I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. She laughed, that dismissive, cutting laugh I remembered from every argument about money. "You're a construction worker who struggles to pay for soccer cleats. Last month, you split Trevor's uniform payment in two. Nathan bought him a signed Mickey Mantle collection worth more than your yearly salary. Just be happy for them." "Mom," Lily whispered, discomfort threading through her words, not fully understanding the cruelty, but sensing it. "It's okay, kids," I said, keeping my tone calm for their sake. "Nathan can give you things I can't, and that's fine. But I'll always be your father." "Dad, our weekend?" Max interjected. "Can we still go to Coney Island? Ride the cyclone until we get sick?" Nathan jumped in smoothly. "We'll be taking them to Martha's Vineyard next weekend for sailing lessons, but the weekend after, of course." After the call ended, I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the dark screen. On the counter beside me was a photo from last summer. Lily, Max, and I at Coney Island. Max with ice cream smeared on his face, Lily making bunny ears behind me, sunburned and laughing in a cheap motel room near the beach. That was our last real vacation together. Now, they would have Swiss boarding schools, rooftop pools, sailing lessons, and chauffeured trips, while I got weekends when Nathan didn't whisk them away to yet another extravagant adventure. The next morning, the sky was a dull gray, drizzle falling steadily, making the city slick and grim. My foreman called by 6. Construction halted for the day. Finally, I had time to do something I had avoided for 3 years: clean out my childhood bedroom at my parents' house in Westchester. The boxes, the old trophies, the memories, I had to face them. It was time to start untangling the past, piece by piece, and prepare for the reckoning I had long postponed. The drive out of the city took 40 minutes, each mile peeling me away from the noise, the sirens, the concrete jungle I'd spent my life building in, and closer to the tree-lined streets of my childhood. The Whitmore house looked exactly the same. White clapboard siding, black shutters, Elaine's garden gnome standing guard beside the walkway. Some things never changed, even when your life had been turned upside down. Harold answered the door in his usual weekend uniform, khakis and a faded polo from the country club he barely visited since retiring. His greeting was classic Harold. No hello, no warmth, just criticism waiting in the wings. "Finally decided to come home, Jack? Thought you'd be too busy with your life." "Good to see you too, Dad," I said, holding back the irritation. Elaine appeared from the kitchen, wiping flour off her hands with her apron. She'd aged gracefully, her gray hair still perfectly styled like it had been for decades. "Jack, you surprised me. Have you eaten? I can make some eggs." "I'm fine, Mom. I just want to get the room cleared so you can use it for your craft studio." She exchanged a subtle glance with Harold, hesitant but resigned. "There's no rush, sweetheart. Really." I was already heading up the narrow staircase. Each creak under my weight was familiar, a ghost of sneaking in past curfew during high school. My old bedroom looked frozen in time. Trophies from Little League, a faded poster of Nirvana, college textbooks from when I dropped out after Marissa got pregnant. I started with the closet, pulling down dusty boxes untouched for years. Report cards showed straight A's up to senior year, until my grandfather, Theodore Whitmore, passed suddenly and everything seemed to unravel. Photographs of him teaching me to fish at his upstate cabin, his patient hands showing me how to tie hooks, brought a lump to my throat. "Jack," Elaine called from the bottom of the stairs. "I need to tell you something about the Blackwell family. Nathan's father, he had dealings with your grandfather years ago." I paused on the top step. "What kind of dealings?" "Nothing good," she said softly. "Just stay away from them. Your grandfather never trusted them." "Bit late for that, Mom. Nathan's marrying Marissa next month." Her face paled, and she gripped the stair railing. "No, Jack. You don't understand. The Blackwells tried to ruin your grandfather's business. They're dangerous." Before I could respond, she hurried back to the kitchen. I returned to my room and moved the heavy oak dresser I'd grown up with. It groaned under my strength, and when I nudged it forward, a section of the baseboard came loose. Behind it was a hidden panel. My pulse spiked. I pulled it free and found a carved space, clearly made to hide something. Inside rested a leather briefcase, soft and worn, gold lettering embossed on the front. Jack Theodore Whitmore. My full name, the one Grandpa Theodore had insisted on, naming me his heir over my father's protests. Elaine's voice came sharp from the doorway. "Where did you find that?" I turned, holding the briefcase carefully. Her eyes widened, her hands trembling as she backed away, as if I were holding something dangerous. "Mom, what is this?" "Put it back, Jack. It's nothing, just old papers from your grandfather." Harold's heavy footsteps thundered up the stairs. "Elaine, what's going on?" He froze when he saw the briefcase, fury twisting his face. "Where the hell did that come from?" "It was hidden behind the wall," I said, holding my ground. "Behind a panel someone carved. And it's mine." Harold lunged forward, but I stepped back. "No, it has my name on it. I'm 42 years old. You don't get to decide anymore." Elaine was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. "Jack, we should tell you. It's been 20 years. Tell me what?" Harold snatched his phone. "Simon, get over here. Now." Simon Whitmore, my uncle, lived 10 minutes away but arrived in 5, storming in like the house was on fire. His suit was wrinkled, face flushed as he took in the scene. The briefcase in my hands, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. I tightened my grip, knowing that in this moment, everything I thought I'd lost was about to resurface. "Jack, some things are better left alone," Harold said, trying to keep his voice steady, authoritative. "Your grandfather wasn't exactly who you think he was." "Then I'll see for myself," I said, setting the briefcase on the bed. The lock was a 5-digit combination. I glanced at my parents. "What's the code?" We don't know," Harold said too quickly. I tried my own birthday, nothing. Nathan Whitmore's birthday? Still nothing. Then a memory hit me. The day Grandpa taught me to ride a bike, his eyes wet with pride as he let go of the seat. "This is the most important day of my life, Jack. July 15th, 1990. The day my grandson learned to fly. July 15th, 90. The lock clicked open. Inside was a stack of documents, pristine despite 20 years of being hidden. On top was a handwritten letter on my grandfather's stationery, his bold, elegant cursive unmistakable. Below were legal documents, official bank statements, and ownership papers for Whitmore Industries, the manufacturing empire my grandfather had built from nothing. I lifted the letter with trembling hands and read aloud, my voice echoing in the silent room. "My dear Jack, if you are reading this, your parents have finally failed to uphold their promise. I write this on your 5th birthday, watching you play in the garden with the toy trucks I gave you, knowing I will not live to see you grow into the man I believe you will become." Elaine sobbed quietly, her hands clutching the doorway. Harold's face was a mask of stone. "I leave my entire estate, all holdings in Whitmore Industries, and my personal fortune to my grandson, Jack Theodore Whitmore, to be transferred upon his 21st birthday. Current valuation, $100 million, with potential for significant growth. Should my son Harold contest this will, he forfeits his position at the company and his pension." The room erupted. That company, the one I had worked my hands raw for, the one I had poured sweat, years, and heart into, was mine. Harold slammed his fist against my childhood desk, making the trophies rattle. You worked there 15 years. You earned nothing. I ran the books. Elaine snapped, her voice finally unrestrained. He stole from Grandpa, Harold. Teddy found out before he passed. He ordered a full audit. You embezzled over $200,000. I stared at them, the floor tilting beneath me. He stole from Grandpa. Simon cleared his throat, his lawyerly composure faltering. Your grandfather confided in me privately after discovering the theft. He wanted to protect the family's reputation, but could not allow Harold to inherit the company. So, he revised the will, leaving everything to Jack. When Grandpa died of a heart attack the following week, Harold persuaded the family to conceal the will for what he called everyone's best interest. Best interest? I shouted, my voice raw. Do you have any idea what my life has been like? You were 21, Harold said coldly. Dropped out of college, had a child. You'd have wasted it all. That child was my wife, I said through clenched teeth. Those pregnancies were my children, Lily and Max. I dropped out to work 3 jobs to support them because I had nothing. Because you made sure I had nothing. I returned to Grandpa's letter, my hands shaking. I have also established educational trusts for any children Jack may have. No child of his should ever lack opportunity. My eyes widened. My kids. They'd had trust funds all this time, while I was breaking my back to pay for Max's baseball uniform. While Marissa left because I couldn't give them the life Nathan Blackwell would now pretend to provide. Elaine couldn't meet my eyes. We planned to tell you eventually, Jack. But you married young, had kids fast. You said I wasn't ready. I shot back. When Marissa left, I lived in my car. For 3 months I showered at the gym, ate at soup kitchens, and still watched my children. You all knew every Christmas when I showed up with cheap gifts, watched me struggle, and did nothing. Simon's voice was weak, almost defeated. Would it have changed anything? Yes. I bellowed. It would have changed everything. My kids think I failed them. Marissa is marrying Nathan Blackwell because I couldn't give them a proper life. And you all watched it happen. For the first time in 20 years, the truth was out. The empire my grandfather built, the fortune he intended for me and my children. It had been hidden, stolen, and now, finally, reclaimed. Every family dinner, I'd order water because it was all I could afford. Everyone else had steak and wine. They all knew exactly how tight things were. I pulled out my phone and pressed record. Say it again, Dad. Every word. Tell me why you stole $100 million from your own son. Harold lunged for the phone, but I stepped back. You're not touching this. I'm recording everything. Jack. Uncle Simon, you're a lawyer. Is this will legitimate? Simon's shoulders slumped. Yes. Completely valid. Witnessed, notarized, filed with the state. We told people you were unreachable, even dead, according to official records. Only business associates, the board of directors at Whitmore Industries. We wanted to prevent questions about succession. I gathered the documents, my hands steady despite the fire building inside me. You stole my life, my children's future. You watched my marriage collapse while I broke my back on construction sites. All the while, you sat on millions that belonged to me. Elaine's voice trembled. Jack, where are you going? To take back what's mine. And if any of you try to stop me, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you did. Fraud, embezzlement, forgery. Headlines would write themselves. Harold Whitmore, respected bank manager. Elaine Whitmore, beloved teacher. Simon Whitmore, successful lawyer. All common thieves. Harold's face went purple with fury. You wouldn't dare disgrace the family. You disgraced it 20 years ago, I shot back. I'm just making sure you finally pay for it. Monday morning, I parked my truck outside the gleaming Manhattan headquarters of Whitmore Industries. 40 stories of glass and steel stretched above me, the marble facade still bearing my grandfather's name. I'd passed it 100 times on jobs, never knowing it should have been mine. Whitmore Industries, how may I direct your call? I need to speak with Wallace Sterling, the CEO. This is Jack Theodore Whitmore regarding my inheritance. A tense silence. Please hold. Within 30 seconds, a calm, distinguished voice replied. Mr. Whitmore, this is Wallace Sterling. My God, I've been waiting 20 years for this call. You knew about me? Your grandfather was my mentor. Before he passed, he told me his grandson would come to claim what was his. He said you'd been kept from it, but truth has a way of surfacing. Where have you been? Your family reported you dead in a car accident in 2005. They told you I was dead? Your Uncle Simon even supplied a death certificate. We've been fending off litigants ever since. Most aggressively, the Blackwell family. My blood ran cold. Marcus Blackwell, Nathan's father, had tried 3 hostile takeovers, insisting the Whitmore heir was dead and the company should be sold. When that failed, Nathan took a different approach, researching potential heirs. He discovered Lily and Max 18 months ago. The pieces clicked together like a hammer to the chest. He knew who I was. He had targeted Marissa, my ex-wife, to position my children as heirs. With me supposedly dead, they would have been the only living descendants of my grandfather. The Blackwells had circled Whitmore Industries like vultures. I need to see you immediately, Wallace said. Bring every document you have. Our legal team will verify everything. If you are indeed Theodore Whitmore's grandson, you are about to inherit and take control of a company now valued at roughly $400 million. 3 hours later, I sat in a boardroom large enough to hold my entire apartment. Lawyers surrounded me, addressing me as Mr. Whitmore, their respect palpable. Wallace Sterling, in his 70s, shook my hand, eyes glistening. You look just like him, he said softly. Same eyes, same stubborn jaw. Theodore would be so proud. For the first time in 20 years, I felt the weight of everything stolen lifted. This was mine, my family, my legacy, my children's future. The forensic accountant we brought in was nothing short of brilliant and ruthless. Within 2 hours, she had traced every penny of Harold's embezzlement over 2 decades. $3 million siphoned through shell accounts in the Cayman Islands. Your father has been living off your inheritance while pretending to retire modestly, she said, eyes cold and sharp. Can we prove it? I asked. Every cent, she replied. He was sloppy. Probably thought no one would ever look. That afternoon, I returned to my parents' house, this time with a full legal team. Harold answered the door, bracing to slam it, but one of the lawyers planted a foot firmly in the frame. Harold Whitmore, I said, voice calm but heavy. You are being sued for embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy to commit inheritance theft. You can cooperate, or we involve federal prosecutors immediately. Elaine sank onto the sofa, face pale. Simon arrived minutes later, his suit rumpled, eyes scanning the lawsuit like it was a bomb. This is criminal territory, he muttered. All of us could go to prison. Then let's make a deal, I said firmly. Sign over everything you stole, every penny with interest, and I'll consider not pressing criminal charges. You have 1 hour to decide. While chaos erupted at home, I headed uptown to Nathan Blackwell's penthouse. The doorman hesitated, but I flashed my new business card. Jack T. Whitmore, CEO, Whitmore Industries. Mr. Blackwell is expecting you, I said, adding a polite smile. The elevator played classical music as it climbed, the city spreading out below me like a living map of everything I'd lost and built. When the doors opened, Marissa stood there, dressed in designer loungewear, glass of wine in hand. Jack, what are you doing here? You can't just show up. Call Nathan, I said, calm but unyielding. Tell him the CEO of Whitmore Industries wants to discuss his father's illegal takeover attempts. She laughed, dismissively. Very funny. Did you spend the morning day drinking at a construction site? Nathan appeared from his study, his face moving from annoyance to disbelief. You're supposed to be dead. This, disappointment. Your plan failed, Jack. 20 years of scheming by your family, and today it ends. What plan? Marissa asked, confused. Tell her, Nathan. Tell her how you investigated me 18 months ago, how you knew exactly who I was when you met her at that charity, how marrying her and adopting my children was your backup scheme to claim Whitmore Industries. Nathan's composed mask finally cracked. You can't prove anything. I don't have to, I said. The FBI will verify your father's attempted hostile takeovers and the fraudulent claim that I was dead. Did you file false documents too? That's federal crime territory. Lily and Max ran into the room, stopping short at the sight of me. Dad, what are you doing here? Just handling some business, kids, I said, keeping my tone light. Turns out your dad isn't the failure everyone thought he was. 6 months later, I stood in the boardroom of Whitmore Industries, 40 floors above Manhattan. The skyline stretched endlessly before me. The same buildings I had helped build, now under my control. My kids were with me. Lily meticulously organizing files on my desk, Max spinning in the conference chairs until he was dizzy. "Dad, this view is insane," Max said, pressing his face against the glass. "You can see all the way to Brooklyn." "I can see the construction site where I worked last year," I said, pointing to a half-finished tower in Queens. "Laid the foundation myself." The transformation had been swift, decisive, and just. Harold and Elaine were now living in a cramped Florida apartment, their assets frozen as the federal investigation progressed. Harold would serve 5 years for embezzlement and fraud starting next month. Elaine sent letters I didn't open, each envelope marked with the return address of a retirement community in Florida. Simon lost his law license immediately. The Bar Association did not look kindly on lawyers who forged death certificates and stole inheritances. Last I heard, he was working as a paralegal in Buffalo, earning $30,000 a year and living in a tiny studio above a Chinese restaurant. For the first time in my life, the city I had built with my hands, the legacy my grandfather left me, and the future of my children were finally mine. Marissa's wedding to Nathan never happened. 2 weeks after our confrontation, the FBI arrested him for conspiracy, fraud, and racketeering. Turns out the Blackwell family had been orchestrating similar schemes for years, targeting inheritances through marriage and adoption. Nathan was facing 15 to 20 years in federal prison. "I always loved you, Jack," Marissa said when she appeared unannounced at my office. "The money, Nathan, none of it mattered. We could try again." "You're right," I replied, keeping my voice even. "The money didn't matter. What mattered was that when things got hard, you didn't just leave. You tried to erase me from our children's lives. You told them they needed a real father because I couldn't buy them expensive things. I was trying to give them a better life. You were trying to give yourself a better life. That's different." She left crying, but I didn't follow. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. The sweetest vindication came from Lily and Max. They chose to live with me full-time, not in Grandfather Theodore's restored estate in Connecticut, but in a brownstone in Brooklyn. Cozy, practical, with a backyard where we could throw a baseball and a kitchen where we actually cooked dinner together. "Dad," Lily said one evening while helping me make spaghetti, "Mom was wrong about needing a different father. You were already perfect. You just didn't know you were rich." "Being rich doesn't make someone a good parent, Lily," I said. "No, but you were a good dad when you had nothing. Remember when you saved for 3 months to buy me that art set? Ate peanut butter sandwiches every day for lunch." She told me later, Max added, after she realized what she'd done. "And you're actually cooler now that you don't have to worry about money. You smile more. You were already the coolest when you taught me to throw a curveball in that tiny park near your old apartment," Lily said, her eyes sparkling. "I had established trust funds for both kids, but with conditions my grandfather would have appreciated. They couldn't touch the money until they had worked for 5 years in a job of their choosing. Real wealth," I told them, "comes from understanding the value of work before understanding the value of money." Wallace Sterling, my grandfather's old protege, became my mentor. He taught me not only business, but also the untold stories of Theodore Whitmore. "Your grandfather spoke about you constantly," he said one afternoon. "He would be heartbroken over what your parents did, but proud of the man you've become despite it." Every month, I visited Theodore Whitmore's grave with Lily and Max. Fresh flowers always accompanied us. One day, the groundskeeper shared something Wallace had told him. "Mr. Sterling visits every week. He promised someone named Theodore he'd keep watching over something precious." On our last visit, Lily asked the question I had been dreading and hoping for at the same time. "Dad, are you going to forgive Grandma Elaine and Grandpa Harold?" I paused, arranging the flowers we'd brought. "Forgiveness isn't forgetting, Lily, but your grandfather would probably want me to try. Maybe someday." "What about us?" Max asked. "Would you forgive us if we did something really bad?" "Nothing you could ever do would stop me from loving you," I said, pulling them close. "Even if you made mistakes, disappointed me, you'd still be my children." That never changes. This story could have ended with me as a bitter millionaire, savoring revenge. But it didn't. Instead, I learned that sometimes finding hidden treasure means losing the family you thought you had while discovering the one you were meant to build. My grandfather's greatest gift wasn't the money. It was the chance to become the man he always believed I could be. Some people inherit fortunes, some inherit problems. I inherited both, and somehow, that made all the difference. Lily and Max were the proof that legacy isn't measured in dollars, but in love, resilience, and the life you build for those you care about. Share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that the hardships they face today do not determine the life they can build tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring true accounts of courage, justice, and the powerful bonds between parents and their children. Your support allows us to bring these meaningful stories to light and inspire others to persevere. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the most valuable legacies aren't measured in money, but in the resilience, love, and strength we discover when life tries to break us. Jack Whitmore's journey proves that even after betrayal, loss, and years of struggle, it's possible to reclaim your life, protect your family, and build a future defined not by wealth alone, but by the character, courage, and care you pass on to those you love most. Share this message, and let someone know that setbacks don't define their worth. They're just the beginning of the story they're meant to write.